Hello, and welcome to the London 2017 edition of the Sabbatical Log. To prepare for teaching more art history classes, my wife Sarah and I decided to do a field study in London with a trip to Bath, Avebury, Stonehenge, and Salisbury. The first trip we ever took abroad together was to London, and since it's been 17 years, we thought it was a good time to return. And well, the pound was as low as to the dollar as we've ever seen, and that sort of sealed the deal. Our first visitation was to the British Museum, where you can see some of the best and most important works of the Western world. You're looking at the pedimental sculptures of the Parthenon, the Elgin marbles here, and you can get right up close to these things, and you see them under a natural lighting. It's a fantastic experience. You see things differently when you examine works in person than from when you look at them in photographs. What you see to the left is one of the Metope sculptures from the Parthenon, and in photographs you can tell that it's very high relief. When you can move around, you can actually see that this figure is almost completely detached from the background. On the right, we're looking at a fragment from the tomb of Mausoleus in Halicarnassus, and you often in photographs miss the sense of size and scale. So that's Sarah, who's about 5'2", standing next to just a portion of the outer decoration. You also see connections that you wouldn't normally see in textbooks. So you can see relationships, and in this case, it was the two ancient Mesopotamian pieces, Ram in a Thicket, and the Royal Standard of Ur. And one of the things that I'd wanted to do was to take a look at the sides, which, while disputed in the way they were put back together, would have some recognizable imagery that might help me talk about this piece. And the museum had chosen to show Ram in a Thicket right next to the Royal Standard of Ur, and sure enough, when I got there, I could see right here and right here that a ram and a thicket were in the imagery on the side, so they made that connection right there for me. Wouldn't have necessarily seen that in texts. Of course, the UK and London have made amazing contributions to modern culture as well as culture throughout Western history. And so my good friend, Professor Steve Grubb, suggested that I make a pilgrimage to Abbey Road Studio. And so Sarah and I took this picture, trying to do our best to copy the album cover in the crosswalk as we could. And so this one's for you, Steve. We're staying in a tiny little service apartment, and these service apartments have, as you can see on the right, a very small kitchen. That little tiny door off to the far right, that is the bathroom, and I am sitting on the bed in order to be able to take that picture as far back as I can get. It was a great deal, and it allows you to save on all sorts of uh, uh, meals if you want to. For us, it was especially breakfasts, which allow you to set up your day really well. Of course, it would be boring to have too many of your meals in your tiny little apartment, so we made sure to sample a lot of the local cuisine, and anybody who has checked out these blogs before knows this is a major feature of any of the travel that we do. And to your left, you can see one of the more traditional styles of pub food. That is a boar and cider pie at the bottom. That's a huge piece of fried haddock fish and chips up at the top. We, of course, made sure to order our greens as well. Um, but we were happy to find that the UK is going through some very similar trends to what we have in California. And on the right is pub food from a gastropub, in which you got much healthier versions and greener versions of traditional foods. So after our first day in the museum, we decided that a walking day would be a good idea. We took a very long walk visiting the Tower of London and 13 Christopher Wren churches built after the Great Fire of 1666. In these two shots, you can see that these beautiful older historical buildings are now juxtaposed to some of the most inventive postmodern architecture that we've seen, which makes for a really interesting modern skyline for London. We ended at his masterpiece at St. Paul's Cathedral, Unfortunately, they don't allow you to take pictures inside, so I can give you this shot of the outside and let you know that the highest towers weren't open, but we did make it up to the Whispering Room. Got an absolutely gorgeous view looking down. The second museum that we visited was the Victoria and Albert Museum, which has an absolutely amazing collection. And in particular, I was interested in doing research for an upcoming class that I'll be teaching in a couple of years, Art 151, the Survey of Islamic Art. And so they had one of the two Ardabil carpets, and though I had seen the sizes listed, again, seeing this thing in person and its grandeur really gave me an idea of how amazing this masterpiece is. So in the shot to the left, you can see that there's a lighting situation that's set up over the carpet, and to protect its color, it only goes on once every 30 minutes. Now, the second shot to the right is actually from the second floor looking down, and that's that top structure over the rug. In addition to this masterpiece, they had an absolutely amazing setup that talked about different innovations in Islamic ceramics as you went from dynasty to dynasty. It was a really illuminating experience. This is an example of how intensely packed some of the collection is exhibited. This was actually one room in a long run of all of the top galleries of about 6 rooms of ceramics that were about this packed. It is a museum that can take absolutely as long as you would like it to. On our fourth day, and after another long museum day, we decided it was a good idea to take a trip a little further afield, and the main way that we'd been getting around was using the London Underground. This subway system is absolutely amazing. It's easy to get just about anywhere you need to get, and it is very inexpensive, and as you can see, clean and modern. And on this day, we were using it to get a little further north to the Kenwood House, which is an example of Georgian architecture. And we weren't really there for the outside, we were there for the inside. As you can see from these two shots, it is an interesting time frame that's drawing on historical sources. On the left, on the ceiling, you can see a small roundel that's been designed after Greek and Roman cameo pieces. On the right, you can see a fireplace that includes a Greek meander pattern, Roman acanthus leaves, and then different designs along the side that are based on Chinese ceramics, chinoiserie. So it was a real mixed match of things. Very intriguing. But one of the reasons I really wanted to go is that it was later bought by the head of Guinness Brewery, who used it to house his art collection. And there were 2 pieces that you might have already spotted here, the Vermeer in the lower left and the Rembrandt self-portrait in the lower right, that we really wanted to see, and it was absolutely worth the trip. We ended the day at the Tate Britain, which showcases the history of British art and some of the best masterworks of J.M.W. Turner. We found when we visited the Turner Wing that the self-portrait that you can see on the left is now going to be part of the 20-pound note, along with another one of his pieces next year. And that's just how important his works are to British history. It was also a good time to check out some more obscure British works, and I just thought I'd show you this one. It is a piece by Nathaniel Bacon. It's Cook-Made with Still Life of Vegetables and Fruits, 1620 to 25-ish. And I'm showing you this because I had to wait through a crowd of snickering 60-year-olds who were quite impressed by the comparison of forms between the vegetables and the Cook-Made, and we actually heard, as one of them was walking off, that they appreciated her melons. I figure if you can stand behind a group of 60-year-olds who have stayed connected to their inner 13-year-old sense of humor, then it's okay to put this one up and show it to everybody in appreciation of the comparison of forms. On our 5th day, we left London by train and traveled to Bath, where we started by visiting more Georgian architecture. This is Royal Crescent 1. It is a restored piece of Georgian architecture, and it's one of the houses on this crescent. Inside, it's a little over restored for my taste, so I'm just going to show you two things that caught our attention. The first is a privy screen off to the left. Men were able to leave the table, and they were not expected to retire to bathrooms in order to relieve themselves. If it was a simple relieving, they could stand behind that screen while everyone else continued to eat. Women could not, however. So I wanted to show you how nice the commode of the house was, so that you didn't feel that it was too unfair to the women of the house. In Bath, we were able to adopt a little bit more of a relaxed pace, and we tried some healthier traditional cuisine. By the way, those things that look like muffins are puddings, absolutely delicious spiced egg puddings that have been baked. And we took the chance to visit our main objective, which was the ancient Roman baths. This city is built on the ancient Roman city of Aquasulis, and it was the bath itself. The lower portion is Roman. The top portion is rebuilt in Victorian times, and that beautiful structure you see in back is the Gothic Bath Abbey. So it's a great place to go and visit different historical time frames overlapping each other one by one. The ancient Roman baths are now open as a museum. It's a great place to see things like on the left the hypocaust floor that was used for heating the floors in the facility, and to the right a cloaca that is a drain for draining the bath water that's still working since Roman times. Now that is impressive engineering. So following this, we were planning on renting a car and driving to Avebury, to Stonehenge, and down to Salisbury. But you'll have to wait for the next edition to find out if we actually drove the car successfully, lived to tell the tale, and saw the sights.